Okay, let's talk about building software securely. It's really important to think about this from the very beginning. We need to follow some core principles like writing code that checks everything coming in and out. Input validation is key here. Then we want to give people only what they absolutely need to do their jobs, a concept called least privilege. Defense in depth means having multiple layers of protection so if one fails, others are there. And finally, regular testing. Think code reviews and scanning for vulnerabilities keeps things secure over time. Security isn't just something you fix once, it's an ongoing effort. Okay, let's talk about a really crucial security concept, the principle of least privilege. Basically, it means giving people and systems exactly what they need to do their job, and nothing more. Think of it like this: you wouldn't give someone access to the whole building just because they want to borrow a cup of sugar, right? Implementing POLP significantly reduces risk. If an account gets compromised, the attacker's ability to cause damage is limited. It also makes it much easier to track who's doing what and hold them accountable. We can implement this by regularly reviewing user permissions, using role-based access control, and adding extra security layers like multi-factor authentication. Now let's move on to some common ways attackers try to exploit systems. Okay, let's talk about a really important security practice, input validation. Think of it like a bouncer at the door. It checks everyone coming in and makes sure they are allowed. Why is this so crucial? Well, if you don't validate what users are entering into your applications, bad actors can sneak in malicious data that could lead to serious problems like injection attacks, where they compromise your database or even execute code on your server. It also ensures everything works correctly and prevents errors, which protects the integrity of your system. Basically, input validation is a fundamental step in building secure software. Okay, let's talk about authentication and authorization. They're often confused but are actually quite different. Authentication is all about proving you are. It's like showing your ID at a club to verify that you are who you say you are. Authorization, on the other hand, is about what you're allowed to do once you've been verified, kind of like having a keycard that only works for certain rooms in a building. Authentication confirms your identity, while authorization controls how much access you have. Okay, let's talk about how applications actually check if you're who you say you are. That's authentication. The most common way is still password-based. It's simple to understand, but we need to make sure passwords are stored securely with things like salting and hashing. But a lot of times, we want more than just a password. That's where multi-factor authentication comes in. Think adding an extra code from your phone or another app. Then there's token-based authentication, which is really popular for API and web services. It lets them prove who you are without needing to share your passwords directly. And of course, social login using accounts like Google or Facebook is a very convenient option. Okay, let's talk about multi-factor authentication, often shortened to MFA. Basically, it's an extra layer of security on top of your password. Imagine you have a single key to your house that's just your password. But with MFA, you need more than that key. You might need a code sent to your phone or even a fingerprint scan to get in. It's like adding multiple locks to keep things secure, and it drastically reduces the chances of someone getting access if they ever manage to steal your password. Okay, let's talk about encryption. Simply put, it's like a secret code for your data. When you encrypt something, it becomes unreadable to anyone who doesn't have the right key. There are two main ways to do this: symmetric and asymmetric encryption. Symmetric uses one key for everything, while asymmetric uses a pair of keys. Now, where should we use this? Pretty much anywhere sensitive information is stored or being transmitted. That includes your databases, files on your laptop, website connections, HTTPS, and even when you send an email. Okay, let's talk about how data gets protected. We're focusing on two main types of encryption: symmetric and asymmetric. Symmetric encryption uses a single secret key, like a really good password, to both lock and unlock the data. It's super fast, which is great for securing lots of information, but you need a secure way to share that key with everyone who needs it. Now, asymmetric encryption uses a pair of keys, a public key and a private key. The public key is safe to share widely, while the private key must be kept strictly secret. It's slower than symmetric encryption, but much easier to manage when it comes to sharing and protecting those keys. Often, systems will combine these two methods for robust security using asymmetric encryption to exchange a symmetric key that's then used to encrypt everything else. Okay, let's talk about hashing. It's a really important concept in security. Essentially, hashing is like creating a unique fingerprint for any piece of data. It's a one-way process. You can easily create the fingerprint from the original data, but going backward to recreate the original data is virtually impossible. It always gives you the same size output, no matter how big or small your input is. This makes it super useful. For instance, when storing passwords, we don't actually store the password itself. Instead, we store its hash-scrambled version that's incredibly difficult to reverse. It also helps us verify if data has been altered during transmission or storage. Think of it as a way to confirm something hasn't been tampered with. Okay, let's talk about hashing algorithms. Hashing is like creating a unique fingerprint of data. It's super important for making sure things haven't been tampered with and also for securely storing passwords. We have several common ones out there. You'll probably hear about MD5 and SH-1, but honestly, they're getting old news. They aren't as secure as we need them to be today. SH-256, SH-384, and SH-512 are much more robust choices. Definitely keep those in mind. And finally, SH-3 is a newer algorithm that's becoming increasingly popular because it offers better security. Now, a quick reminder, when dealing with passwords, just hashing them alone isn't enough. You always need to use salting and something like bcrypt or Agonto for extra protection. Okay, let's talk about salting. Think of it like adding a secret ingredient to your password before you bake it into a secure hash. Every user gets their own unique salt, a random string that's linked to their account. This means even if two people have the same password, they'll generate completely different hashes because each one is salted differently. It's like having a custom recipe for each password, making it incredibly difficult for attackers with pre-computed tables to guess your login details. Okay, let's talk about security policies. Basically, it's an organization's roadmap for keeping its data and systems safe. It's like a set of rules, a detailed guide that outlines how we manage our information assets and protect them from all sorts of threats. This includes everything from strong passwords to controlling who has access to what, and even things like physical security measures. Think of it as the rules of the game for cybersecurity. It covers all areas, defines responsibilities, sets specific standards, and provides procedures for how we do things. It's important because it gives everyone clear expectations about security, helps us reduce risks, ensures we meet regulatory requirements, and allows us to respond consistently to any incidents that might occur. Okay, let's talk about secure coding. It's a really important topic when we're building software. Basically, it's all about intentionally designing and writing code in a way that actively prevents security vulnerabilities from creeping in. It's not just an afterthought, it needs to be baked into the process from day one. We focus on things like making sure any data coming from the user their inputs is checked thoroughly, so we don't accidentally let malicious code through. Then, when we display information back to the user, we make sure that data is properly encoded to prevent it from being used against them. And of course, strong authentication and authorization are key to protecting access. Let's look at a few common vulnerabilities like SQL injection, where bad input gets directly used in database queries, or XSS, which lets malicious script run on your site. And then there's buffer overflows, where we accidentally write past the boundaries of allocated memory. Knowing these issues and how to fix them is absolutely crucial for building secure applications. Okay, let's talk about logging and monitoring. They are super important for keeping systems safe. Think of logging as creating a detailed record book of everything that happens inside your network or application. It captures user logins, app access, data changes, even errors. This creates an audit trail so you can trace actions back to specific people and times, which is really useful if something goes wrong. Now, monitoring takes those logs and analyzes them. It's like a detective looking for clues. It searches for unusual patterns that might signal a threat, sets up alerts when things look suspicious like a lot of failed login attempts, and helps you spot problems before they become major issues. Ultimately, logging and monitoring work together to help you respond quickly to incidents, meet compliance requirements, and stay ahead of potential threats. Okay, let's talk about the really important stuff: securing web applications. The OWASP Top 10 is a fantastic resource that breaks down the most common threats we see. It's basically a prioritized list of vulnerabilities developers need to know about, and it changes periodically to reflect new risks. Right now, there are 10 key areas to focus on: injection attacks, where malicious code gets injected into your system; broken authentication, if people can get in without proper logins, exposing sensitive data like passwords or credit card numbers; and then XML, external entities, which is a tricky one. Next up, we have broken access control, basically not having the right safeguards in place to protect resources. Security misconfiguration, often due to default settings or poor configurations. Cross-site scripting, where malicious scripts sneak onto websites. Insecure deserialization, exploiting bugs in how data is processed, using components with known vulnerabilities, that means outdated third-party libraries. And finally, insufficient logging and monitoring. If you can't track what's happening, it's much harder to catch security problems. Understanding these 10 vulnerabilities is a critical first step for any developer or security professional. Let's talk about SQL injection, a really common security risk. Basically, it's like tricking the database into running commands you didn't intend to run. Imagine someone sneaking in malicious code through user input and then messing with your entire system. To prevent this, we use parameterized queries. These treat user data as data*, not as part of the SQL command itself. We also need to carefully check what users are entering and remove anything that looks suspicious. Finally, always give database accounts only the minimum permissions they absolutely need. Let's talk about XSS cross-site scripting. It's a really common attack where someone injects malicious code into a website. Think of it like tricking the page into running instructions from somewhere else, usually an attacker's site. It happens when attackers find ways to slip JavaScript into places that look normal, often through things like search forms. There are different types. Reflected XSS is where the attack comes back at you based on what you type in, and stored XSS is when the bad code gets permanently saved on the website itself. The good news is there's a lot we can do to prevent it. Input validation makes sure everything that comes in is legitimate. Output encoding turns those potentially dangerous bits into harmless text before they're displayed. And content security policies, ESP, gives us really fine-grained control over what resources the browser can load. Let's talk about CSRF, cross-site request forgery. Think of it like someone tricking your browser into doing something you didn't intend to, while you're already logged in somewhere else. It works by exploiting the trust a website has when you visit it. A malicious site crafts a request, and because your browser is already connected to that legitimate website, say a bank, it automatically processes it as if you made the request. To stop this, we use things like CSRF tokens, which are unique identifiers for each session, and same-site cookies, which limit where those cookies can be sent. And finally, for really sensitive actions, it's good practice to just ask you to confirm you want to do something. A simple captcha might do the trick. Okay, let's talk about clickjacking. It's a sneaky security threat. Basically, an attacker tricks you into clicking something different from what you actually think you're clicking. Imagine they put a button that looks like, but when you click it, it actually posts something to your wall without you realizing it. It works by layering malicious elements on top of legitimate things you don't even see. The key defense is the X-frame options header in your website's code. Setting it to deny completely blocks framing and protects against this attack. Content security policy, or CSP, also adds a layer of security by controlling what resources your site can load. And finally, frame busting techniques can be used as a backup, but they are less reliable than the other two methods. Okay, let's talk about Content Security Policy, or CSP. Think of it as a security card for your website, a way to prevent those nasty XSS attacks. Basically, CSP tells the browser exactly where it asterisk is asterisk and asterisk isn't asterisk allowed to load resources like scripts and images. It creates a whitelist, so only trusted sources get through. For example, you might tell the browser only use JavaScript from our own website, which drastically reduces the risk of someone injecting malicious code. It's a really powerful tool for boosting security and protecting your users. Okay, let's talk about API keys and secrets. They are super important for connecting to other services, but they can be risky if not handled correctly. The biggest thing is never putting them directly in your code. Instead, we want to use environment variables. These are like hidden settings that exist outside of your main project files. For really serious security, look into dedicated secrets management tools like Vault or similar services offered by cloud providers. They offer extra protection and make managing keys much easier. And don't forget about key rotation. It's a good habit to change them regularly to limit the impact if one gets compromised. Okay, let's talk about HTTPS. It's a really important part of staying safe online. Basically, HTTP is like sending information out in the open, and anyone can read it. But HTTPS changes that. It wraps all your data in an encrypted locked box using SSL/TLS. This means that even if someone intercepts the connection, they won't be able to understand what you're sending or receiving, which protects sensitive things like passwords and credit card details. It also makes sure you are talking to the real website, not a fake one trying to trick you. Okay, let's talk about certificate pinning. Essentially, it's like giving your app a specific key to check the identity of a website or server, instead of just trusting any certificate offered by the computer's built-in list of trusted authorities. Think of it as a digital ID card that only your app recognizes. It's really important because those general trust stores can sometimes be vulnerable, and pinning helps protect against potential attacks. Okay, let's talk about firewalls. They're seriously important for security. Essentially, a firewall is like a digital bouncer. It sits between your network and the internet, checking every single piece of traffic that tries to come in or go out. It uses rules to decide what's allowed and what isn't, blocking anything suspicious. There are different types, like network firewalls that protect an entire organization and host-based firewalls that guard individual computers. They use techniques like stateful inspection to make sure connections are legitimate, and they can even help prevent intrusions. Okay, so let's talk about network segmentation. Basically, it's like creating separate rooms in your company's digital building, each with its own security measures. Without this, a single vulnerability could put everything at risk. Segmentation reduces the attack surface, helps us comply with regulations, lets us apply specific security policies to different parts of the network, and makes it much easier to spot and contain problems if something goes wrong. Let's talk about VPN. They are super useful for staying safe online. Basically, a VPN creates a secret tunnel for your internet traffic, like wrapping it in an extra layer of protection. It encrypts everything you do and hides your real IP address, making it harder to track you. You really want to use one when you're on public Wi-Fi, because those networks are often not very secure. VPN also help with remote work security and can even let you access content that's blocked in certain areas. Essentially, they boost your privacy and keep your data safe. Okay, let's talk about penetration testing. Basically, it's like hiring a hacker by the *1. They're trying to find weaknesses in your systems and applications, just like someone would if they were going to attack you maliciously. It's all done with your permission, of course, so we can fix any problems before real bad guys do. There are different ways to conduct these tests, some where the testers know nothing about your system, others where they have full access, and then there's grey box testing, which is somewhere in between. Understanding these different approaches helps you understand how thorough a pen test really is. Okay, let's talk about vulnerability scanning versus penetration testing. They're often confused. Vulnerability scanning is like a routine checkup for your systems. Tools scan for known weaknesses and report them to you, similar to finding a broken tile in a floor. Penetration testing, on the other hand, is like hiring an ethical hacker to actually try to break into your system using those weaknesses. It's much more active and focused on determining if these problems can be exploited during the potential damage. Okay, let's talk about passwords. It's really important to understand how they should be stored securely. If you just leave passwords in plain text like a simple document file, it's like leaving the key to your house lying on the doorstep. Anyone who gets access to that file can steal all your passwords. So, we need to use strong hashing algorithms. Things like bcrypt or Argon2 are much more secure than older methods. And don't forget, salting a random string added before hashing makes it way harder for attackers to crack those passwords. Finally, good password policies requiring complex combinations and preventing reuse are crucial too. Okay, let's talk about keeping our data safe both when it's traveling and when it's sitting still. When data is moving around, like through a website, we need to make sure it's encrypted using something called TLS or SSL. That's what makes the S in HTTPS. For remote connections, VPN or SSH tunnels are great ways to create a secure path. And of course, don't use outdated protocols like FTP, SFTP and FTPS are much more secure. Now, when data is stored, think files on your computer or information in a database that needs protection too. Full disk encryption is really important for laptops, and we should always limit who has access to sensitive information using the principle of least privilege. Finally, storing those encryption keys securely is crucial. Don't just put them directly into our code. Okay, let's talk about token-based authentication. It's a really important concept in modern security. Instead of relying on usernames and passwords directly, which can be vulnerable to attacks, think of it like this. After you log in securely, the system issues you a special key or token. This token is then used for all your subsequent requests. Because the server doesn't need to remember who you are throughout your session, they just check the token. It makes things much more secure and easier to scale up as your application grows. Okay, let's talk about single sign-on or SSO. Think of it like this. You're tired of constantly remembering dozens of different passwords. SSO solves that problem. It's a system where you log in just once and then you can automatically access multiple applications like your email, CRM, and internal tools without having to re-enter your username and password each time. Essentially, an identity provider, like Microsoft Azure or Okta, acts as the gatekeeper, verifying who you are, and then giving you temporary keys that allow you to securely access all those other applications. Okay, let's talk about security headers. Think of them as little hints you give to the browser, telling it how to be extra secure when handling your website. They are HTTP response headers, basically instructions sent back after a page loads. Why are they important? Well, they help prevent things like XSS attacks, where hackers sneak malicious scripts into your site. They can also stop click checking, which is when a site tricks you into clicking something without realizing it. We have all sorts of different security headers that tackle specific vulnerabilities, like ensuring HTTPS is always used or limiting what internal requests a server can make. Some common ones include content security policy to control script sources and strict transport security to force secure connections. Do you know which ones are most important for your website? Okay, let's talk about how security fits into your CI/CD process. It's not just about the code you write, it's about protecting your entire workflow. We want to catch vulnerabilities early. Think of SaaS tools that scan your source code for potential problems before anything gets built. Then we use DAS to test running applications, and SCA helps us manage any risks from open source components we're using. Don't forget about infrastructure. We need to make sure our servers are secure too, so IC scanning is a must. And crucially, never, ever hardcode secrets. Use a proper secrets management system. Think of it as a layered defense, starting with code and extending all the way through deployment. Okay, let's talk about our role-based access control. Essentially, it's a smart way to manage who can do what in an organization. Instead of giving each individual user a bunch of separate permissions, we group them into roles like administrator, developer, or sales. Then we assign the necessary access rights ** those roles. So, if someone is assigned to the marketing specialist role, they automatically get the permissions needed for their job without needing individual access granted for each specific task. It makes managing security much easier and reduces the chance of accidentally giving people too many privileges. Okay, let's talk about audit logging. It's a really important piece of the security puzzle. Basically, it's like keeping a detailed record book of everything that happens within your system or application. Why is this useful? Well, if something goes wrong, an audit log lets you trace exactly what occurred and figure out how a breach happened, or spot unusual activity that might point to problems. It helps with investigations, detecting threats, and making sure you're following regulations like GDPR. What should be logged? It's pretty broad, things like logins and logouts, changes to security settings, modifications to data, even when the system starts up or downloads updates. The key is to think about what's most important for your specific environment. And remember, you need a plan for storing those logs securely, how long they'll be kept, and how you'll manage their size. Okay, let's talk about securing those public clouds. A big part of the interview is understanding how you'd approach this. First, it starts with strong IAM, think MFA for everyone, and making sure people only have access to what they absolutely need. Then, we need to build a secure network using things like VPC and firewalls, segmenting your infrastructure. Don't forget about encrypting data both when it's stored and while it's moving around. And finally, constant monitoring and logging are crucial. You want to be alerted to anything suspicious happening. Okay, let's talk about security incident response plans. Essentially, your organization's roadmap for when a cyber attack or other security issue happens. It's not enough to just react *, you need a plan. This plan outlines the steps to take from figuring out what's going on, identification to stopping it, and then fixing everything up and learning from the experience. It includes things like who does what, how to communicate, and most importantly, how quickly you can contain the damage. Okay, let's talk about patch management. Basically, it's all about keeping the software on your computers and servers up to date. Think of it like fixing holes in a ship. If you don't plug those holes, something bad can happen. Patches are updates released by developers to fix vulnerabilities, which are essentially weaknesses that hackers could exploit. It's really important because ignoring these patches leaves your systems exposed and makes them much more vulnerable to attacks. Patch management helps reduce the number of ways attackers could get in, keeping things safer and more stable. Okay, let's talk about zero trust. Imagine a castle. Traditionally, you build a big wall around it and assume anyone inside is trustworthy. Zero trust flips that idea on its head. It says we shouldn't automatically trust * anyone *, whether they're inside or outside our network. Every single time someone wants to access something, we need to verify their identity and make sure they really have permission. Basically, never trust, always verify. We also need to assume a breach has already happened, so we build controls that limit how far an attacker can go if they do get in. Then, we give people only the absolutely minimum access they need, least privilege, and constantly monitor everything to look for anything unusual. It's a layered approach designed to be much more secure than traditional security models. Okay, so let's dive into endpoint protection. Basically, we're talking about securing the computers and mobile devices that our employees use: laptops, phones, tablets. It's much more than just a regular antivirus program. It's like building a complete security layer around each device. We have things like endpoint detection and response, which is constantly watching for suspicious activity, and host intrusion prevention systems that block potentially harmful actions. Device control helps us manage access to external devices, and data loss prevention prevents sensitive information from leaving the device. It's a really important part of our overall security strategy because attackers often target individual devices first, so protecting those endpoints is key. Okay, let's talk about intrusion detection and prevention. Essentially, these systems are like security guards for your network and computers. Intrusion detection systems, or ISAs, act like cameras. They observe what's happening and flag anything that looks suspicious, but they don't actually stop it. They just send an alert. Then you have intrusion prevention systems, or IPSs. These are more proactive. An IPS not only notices the problem, but it actively tries to block it, preventing a potential attack from succeeding. Think of it as the security guard actually pulling someone away before they can cause trouble. Let's talk about secure file uploads, which is often a key area during security interviews. It's super important to understand that attackers love exploiting poorly handled files. The first thing you should always do is check the file type against what you expect, make sure the size is reasonable, and verify the extension. But remember, client-side validation can be bypassed, so you absolutely need server-side checks too. Next, rename the file after it's uploaded to something random and unique. This prevents attackers from knowing exactly what they're dealing with. You might also consider converting the file to a standard format like PDF or JPEG before storing it. Finally, where you store those files is critical. Put them in a dedicated, restricted area with tight access controls. Don't just move them somewhere else. That doesn't eliminate the risk of direct access. Let's talk about code signing. Think of it as a digital fingerprint for your software. It's how you prove that the code you're running actually comes from who you think it does and hasn't been messed with along the way. Developers get certificates from trusted authorities, use this to sign their code, and then when users install it, it can check if the signature is valid, confirming authenticity and integrity. It's a really important step in building trust with your users. Let's talk about container security. Think of it like this: containers are awesome, but they create new attack surfaces. It's not enough to just secure the machine running them, you need to protect everything inside the container too. We want to start with strong base images. Things like Alpine Linux are great because they're small and don't have a lot of extra stuff that could be vulnerable. Then, it's really important to regularly scan those images for known security holes using tools like Travi. And always run your containers as non-root users if you can. Finally, we need to keep an eye on what's happening inside the container itself. Tools like Falco can help us spot anything unusual. Okay, let's talk about securing those third-party libraries you're relying on. They're actually a really big security concern. The first thing is to know exactly what dependencies your project has, so use tools like npm audit or yarn audit to get a complete list. Then, it's crucial to regularly scan for vulnerabilities. Think of it as a constant checkup. Set up automated scanning in your development process. Ideally, you want to do this every week. Next, keep those dependencies updated. Don't delay patching known vulnerabilities and use tools to help manage updates safely. Remember, only include what you absolutely need, and try to understand where your dependencies are coming from to build a more robust supply chain. Okay, let's talk about social engineering. It's a really important part of cybersecurity. Basically, it's where attackers trick people into doing things they shouldn't, like giving away passwords or clicking on malicious links. There are lots of different ways they do this, from sending out convincing phishing emails to creating fake scenarios to get information. It's all about understanding how people work and exploiting their trust. The good news is there are plenty of ways we can defend against it. The most important thing is training your team so they know what to look for, using strong security measures like multi-factor authentication, and building a culture where everyone thinks twice before clicking on something or sharing information. Okay, let's talk about securing microservices. It's a different beast than traditional monolithic apps. The key is you can't just apply the same security measures everywhere. You need to think distributed. A service mesh like Istio or Linkerd is a really valuable tool here. It handles things like encrypting all communication between services and making sure they are actually who they say they are through MTLS. Then your API gateway needs strong protection. Think robust authentication, rate limiting, and making sure any data coming into your service is clean. Finally, moving away from a single, central authorization point, using something like OPA makes things more resilient and less of a bottleneck. Don't forget about distributed tracing and monitoring. These are essential for spotting anything unusual that might indicate a security issue. Okay, so let's talk about security in serverless environments. It's fantastic for speed and scalability, but it also comes with some specific dangers. One big concern is vulnerabilities within the functions themselves. If your code has flaws, attackers can exploit them. You also need to watch out for injection attacks, similar to what you'd see in traditional web apps. IAM roles are super important here too. Make sure your permissions aren't overly broad. Then there's event data. Malicious input into events can cause serious problems. And don't forget about third-party dependencies. If a library has vulnerabilities, so does your application. Finally, good logging and monitoring are absolutely essential to spot anything suspicious. Thank you for watching.